All right, 7:10 in the morning. It is my seventh favorite day of the week. But it's made better because the Shpoo Hour is on our Monday morning. Today, no exception. Welcoming in Brother Nick, Brother Steve, Brother Mark, all in studio today. Brother Steve, how are you?
Rick, always happy and grateful to be here with you and your listeners. Appreciate it.
Wow.
Another Monday together.
Another Monday. These weeks are flying by.
They are.
Yeah. October, what's the date? 7th? 8th?
Yep.
5th?
Yeah, got about
7th.
a month to election time, right?
Yeah, that's absolutely true. Brother Nick, good morning to you, sir.
Morning. Thanks for having us back.
Did you watch Saturday Night Live this past Saturday?
I did not know.
Yeah.
No, I it's past my bedtime.
And we'll get to know more from 97-year-old Brother Nick later on in the program. Brother Mark, good to see you.
Happy Monday as usual, you know?
Yeah? How's retired life?
It's awesome. I highly recommend it, you know?
Meanwhile, the boys are going here. Yeah.
You know, I'm actually busier now. But you know, one thing about retirement is, and they told me you're going to be busier, but you know, when you're working, you got stuff to do at your home, or you got stuff to do on your boat and this and that, and you put it off because you're working.
Yeah.
Now it gets done. It's awesome.
Yeah, well, you're a pretty fastidious guy to begin with, and now with this extra time.
Fastidious.
I need to. Yeah.
I got to look that one
Know
up.
what the definition?
Wow.
We can pretend we know what that was.
Just nod.
Yeah.
Yeah, nodding's good.
But yeah, retirement is awesome. I love it.
I love that you're with us and the perspectives and all of that. I want to start with something on the upside, and that is with my encounters with men and women that are in uniform. Having the opportunity to chat with them very briefly and just to express thanks for what they do. Is there a formal way? I think we did this months and months or even years ago. A formal way to recognize the service of an HPD officer. And I think it's one thing to share with them in person, but I think how do we do so if we want to formalize that to make sure the department is aware of the good work that they are doing?
So if you see a good deed and you want to recognize an officer, real simple, just write a letter to the Chief of Police, 801 South Baratania Street, and that officer will be recognized, you know?
Excellent.
So
what does it mean to an officer to receive?
So, Rick, like Mark was saying, you address it to the chief. It'll get disseminated to where the officer works. It'll go through his chain of command. The chain of command will usually write notes of good job on the document. The document's going to be stamped. The watch commander and or sergeant at roll call, depending on where the officer works, will actually read the letter out loud in front of the other officers.
Okay.
The officer will sign it, and it will stay in his or her employee file. What does it mean? It's a job well done. Yeah. And you know, I'll tell you what, the patrol cops are pretty low key. They're not going to make a huge deal about it, but you know, inside, who doesn't appreciate getting recognized for a job well done? Most cops are going to credit it to, you know, a team concept that, hey, you know, I come to work, I work with a great group of officers in my sector, in my district, so they'll probably be pretty humble about it, but of course they're going to appreciate it because guess what? It doesn't happen all the time. What does happen sometimes are corrective 384 actions. As you know, the officers get disciplined for this, that, and the other thing. So it's kind of nice sometimes to have a document in the folder that can kind of counterbalance perhaps some corrective actions that may have needed to be given.
So I want to ask a favor, Brother Nick, gentlemen. If you have access to a complimentary note, letter, card, whatever it is, for an officer, would you bring one or two in with you? Is it possible to share? And here's why. Because you guys are subjected to a legislative disciplinary report on an annual basis. And when you go through that, it's like, well, you did this and this and this. I get it. I understand. And that is part of the overall environment. But I want balance. I'd like to have a reminder that every time an officer is called into question for questionable behavior or actions, that we understand that there are equally and exceedingly more officers that are doing a good, solid job. And I want to make sure that message is really articulated. Brother Nick.
Yeah, thank you. So I would fully, wholeheartedly encourage the Honolulu Police Department and Arthur Logan when he comes into your show to bring some of those letters on a regular basis and read them. We don't have access to them.
I see.
Those letters, as Steve said, when they go into an officer's individual file, they're privy to the officer. So we can't go into them and get them. Some other things about those letters that I'd like to let the public know about, if you don't mind.
Please.
We kind of loosely refer to them as attaboys. Supervisors and the department can also write letters of recognition for officers for jobs well done. There are what we call good 384s, divisional counseling on the commendation level. There are formal letters of commendation. There are actually service awards that you can get in the department for valor. Those are the ones that are really supremely recognized for valor. But like Steve said, they're supposed to be read in lineup. Lineups nowadays are usually pretty fast paced because officers have to hit the road really quickly. So unfortunately, they're not always read. I wish the department would get back to that routine, because it used to be not a big deal, but just a little satisfying and rewarding for officer or officers to have that situation recognized. It gets signed, it goes into their jacket, it's permanent, it never gets removed. There was a bit of misunderstanding, I think, on the part of these letters being explained to the police commission once. I haven't actually seen it, but I've been told anecdotally that perhaps Arthur Logan told the police commission that these letters can be used towards promotion. They cannot. Essentially, they stay in the file as a recognition of good service, but they do not count towards promotion whatsoever. They have nothing to do with what your test score is, what your interview score is, or anything like that at all. So there may be a misconception out there that, maybe I could help this person out in that way. It doesn't, to be honest with you, it doesn't. But it does make a big difference to individual morale and to the individual morale of a watch or an entire sector. And it's just a good thing, and I would encourage anybody to do it. And it doesn't have to be some drawn out long story. It can be something as simple as, this person seemed to be doing a good job and I appreciate it.
So you're saying that if Brother Steve were to write such a letter or message, that it would be acceptable on construction paper and crayon, and that would still remain in the file. Is that correct?
So I haven't seen one of those. No.
Can I use that extra thick pencil so my fingers can navigate that, Rick? I appreciate you.
I was just making clear.
But Rick, thanks for just for a second. Thank you for bringing that up. That's it's important, Rick, and thank you for asking about it. And I think it'll be really great if Chief Joe could bring some of those letters in. Maybe that would be great.
Absolutely. I'll make the request, and I hope we can share.
Those letters, and they're sent to the department a lot, so there are a lot of people that do write in. So it would be nice if Chief Joe on his show could bring one in every week.
Yeah.
And like you say, counterbalance the negativity that's out there, because there's way more positivity out there.
Yeah.
And then as a supervisor, I wrote many of those letters, either commendations. I wrote up people for officer of the quarter, unit of the quarter, officer of the year, so it counterbalances too.
It is.
Rick, sorry, I just wanted to jump in on what Mark was saying. Yeah. When you're, and this is speaking in a patrol capacity with the cops that are in uniform driving the police cars, the patrol sergeant that works with his or her team of officers in a sector, to Mark's point, a sergeant that's in tune is going to write accommodations when appropriate for the officers that work for him. So not only do we receive letters from the outside that are written, there's, as Nick was saying, there's a document called the 384. It can be used for corrective action measures or commendations. And a lot of sergeants, at least when we were in D1, based upon the caseload and what was happening, sergeants would take the time to write up the good works of the officers, and then it goes in their file permanently. So
yeah. I will have to bring up a little bit of the flip side, and I referenced the legislative disciplinary reports. As I was perusing, boy, you guys are under the microscope. scope, because there were some entries on this disciplinary log that had to do with the minutia of exchanges that ranged all the way from raising your voice. I was reading that. I went,
oh, yeah.
You were raising your voice,
Yeah.
and that was a disciplinary measure. And then in very serious issues as well. And then I saw disposition was P, A, and F, pending, I believe pending arbitration and final, if that's correct. I may be off on the pending, and the process that goes through with disciplinary, if an officer has an accusation or is brought up on a disciplinary, who administers that within the department? Who's the one, what department, individual that will move forward and say, you, Officer Fred, we have this, you did this, you did this, you did this. How does that process work if an officer receives discipline?
So for a long time, the disciplinary records in the state of Hawaii didn't have to include officers' names, or if they did, it was under extremely, sorry, I can't think of the term, but extremely unique circumstances where an officer's name was released. And typically that had to do with very heinous behavior where the discipline was upheld. Over the years, unfortunately, we've lost the ability to keep it impersonal in that regards. When you're looking at PAF, unfortunately, pending would be, we're still working on this situation. A would be arbitration, which means that the union has taken over and we're at one of the 4 steps and we're trying to mitigate this disciplinary action. And F would be final. Essentially, that means that no, the disciplinary action was upheld or sustained. The union failed in its efforts to have it removed, or the union did concede to a mitigating action where the discipline was reduced. The biggest problem with releasing police officers' names right now is that PAF. That list that you looked at is not a true representation of what the final outcome of that situation is. And we concede as a union that we have lost the ability to keep officers' names from being released to the public. Okay, we have to accept that. But what we're still trying to work on and make the public aware of is that when this list comes out, it's not a true representation of what actually happened. P means pending. There's no final outcome yet, right? A means it's in arbitration. There's still no final outcome yet. If it is at F and it is finalized, okay, so be it. It has to be released. It has to go out there. The officer's name has to go out there. We'd still rather not have it that way, but that's just the way the law is now. Okay, that's the way it's written. But for the other 2 designators, hey, listen, who's to say this officer actually committed this thing? All right. There's no final disposition to this. Why would you say this officer took a 10-day suspension when later on down the line that may get reduced to a 1-day suspension? Or it may be found that the discipline was completely inappropriate and it was completely reversed. Why would you say this person has been terminated from employment when in reality, through an arbitration process, it could be revealed that they never should have been terminated in the first place and that they did get their job back? But now it's a matter of public record, right? But it's not really true.
So what it appears to be is that the verdict is in. In other words, even if you're on the list, even if your name appears, well, you did it.
Yes.
That's it.
And Rick, I think your reaction was kind of indicative of used harsh language. You were probably surprised as a reader that why would that even be listed? Like harsh language, probably there's 10 questions you have in your mind following up to that, right?
Yeah.
And the biggest issue that we have is, and we fought against this, just full disclaimer, we believe in transparency, but to Nick's point, why are you publishing the names and the alleged allegations of officers before it's finalized?
Yeah.
That's the issue. Not only that, and look, let's not twist transparency into what this is. This was an attack against police officers to embarrass and disgrace the badge. Brought up by politicians that don't respect law enforcement, don't respect the police, and the public didn't know any better to vote against it. It was brought up by politicians that don't like cops. It's not about transparency. Transparency is communicating through the chief of police what's going on, what we're investigating. You really want to know if an officer has used harsh language? What profession, and I'm passionate about this, Rick, what profession would highlight that type of indiscretion anywhere else? Do we get doctors, electrician, when other agencies, when other workers in the community do wrong, do they get put on blast? And you might have the flip side is, well, they're not the police and you guys and blah, blah, blah. Enough already. This is to demoralize. This was an attack against the police, bottom line. You're not going to sell me that publishing disciplinary records other than for, now look, if cops do something wrong, they need to be held accountable. And if it's egregious, yes, the public should know about it.
Absolutely.
But this Menini kind of, this kind of stuff is irrelevant. And again, our big issue as a labor union is our members' names are getting put on blast for something that hasn't been adjudicated yet. Arbitration means we're fighting it. It's still in the process. So why would we even do that? And it's unfortunate because we're already scrutinized enough. And I would ask those, what's the point of that? Mm-hmm. You want to know Officer so-and-so was discourteous to as a member of the public. I don't know. How does that affect your day? Do you really care?
Well, and define it.
Exactly.
You know?
So, Rick, we again, as a labor, we fought against that. We lost. They upheld it, and we felt that was a bad piece of legislation. Transparency is one thing, but this was way over the top.
Brother Mark?
I got to mirror what Steve said. It's totally meant to demean the officer or the department. And, you know, Hawaii politicians historically are known for that. You could ask the officers can't tell you because they're working, but I've seen it all the years that I've worked. Politicians, they never supported the department. They'll come out and, when it come election time, oh yeah, we support the police, but put your money where your mouth is, and they haven't, right?
It just seems to me, and I'll let you finish it.
Yeah.
Seems to me it's very opportunistic for most politicians to stand side by side. For instance, out in Waianae, to have a press conference. Yes, and we're all together, but they'll be the first in line to say, not doing enough. Yep. You've reduced the number of manpower. You haven't done this. You don't do this. We need this. And there was a soundbite because of what happened in Nanakuli at the Wendy's restaurant. Yeah. The news are saying something needs to be done. What the hell? Why do you have a guy who's carrying a knife who lives amongst you, messing around with furniture, tearing apart the place or whatever the situation was, being encountered, takes a knife and slashes and kills? Mm-hmm. What do you mean? What is a police officer supposed to do? Are we talking about Minority Report? Are we going to get AI and technology to identify a crime before it's committed? Is that what we expect? Finish up, Brother Mark, then Brother Nick.
So the other point I wanted to make is there's many different ways of making complaints in the department. You go through police commission, you go through our professional standards office. Many frivolous and BS complaints coming in, you would not believe it. It's unbelievable the crap that comes in, complaints against the officers. And like you said, the microscope and what these officers are under is ridiculous. It's ridiculous.
Brother Nick, before we take our break.
Yeah, I like the fact that you use the term AI and technology. Not only do we have a disciplinary record where every little minutia is released, allegedly, before final action is done, but on top of it, we're the only agency in the state, in the county, on the city level that has to wear a camera and has to activate it every time we interact with people. And there's a big debate as we continue to wear this. Are we being transparent, or are we being practical? Is this thing really necessary as much as people think it is, or is this something that is just being used as a tool to penalize officers and to penalize law enforcement and to provide an unnecessary amount of oversight? I'd like to add on that note that when it comes to disciplinary action, the first thing that the Honolulu Police Department or any department that has body-worn cameras is going to do to see if an officer is wearing a camera. And if they are, they're going to go straight to that footage before anything else. They'll get the complaint, they'll go to the footage, and then they'll take their investigation from there. Often, the people who are making the decisions within a department as to whether or not discipline is going to be mitigated have never worn a body-worn camera in their entire career. Probably don't even know how to turn it on, which to me is a huge irony.
Yeah.
A huge irony.
Absolutely. Thank you for that, gentlemen. That takes us all the way through to the bottom of the hour already. I'm going to free the phone lines up. If you'd like to be a part of the program, 521-8383. Welcome back. The Shpoo Hour is together on this Aloha Monday. 521-8383. If you would like to be a part of the program, we'd love to hear from you. As a matter of fact, gentlemen, we'll start taking calls. And once again, you can join us at 521-8383. Let's go to Eva Beach. And Ginger is on the line. And once again, Ginger, I want to thank you very much for being a part of the program. Good morning.
Hi, good morning, Rick. Thank you so much. First, I want to say thank you to the boys in blue out there. I really appreciate you. It is a shame. It's just embarrassing. It's disgusting how they have body cameras on that record every move that they make, that record everything that they say. I mean, how can they do their jobs if they're being under a microscope? That they have to now worry about hurting somebody's feelings, saying something that could be construed as something not correct. And I work in an office. I would hate to have a body camera on myself just by being in the office. There's no way you can actually do the work you need to do if you're having to worry about all that other stuff. And they also have to uphold policies that doesn't make sense anymore in this state. And they have a hard time, and now they're wondering why recruitment is so low. They don't have support. They don't have the support from the leaders of this state.
Ginger, I cannot thank you for taking the time to join us. I'd like the brothers to give their thoughts. Brother Steve, I'll start with you in the middle.
Ginger, thank you so much for calling in and sharing your comments and thoughts. And I don't know, Rick, I think Ginger summed it up pretty well. Support from elected leadership at the highest levels is going to be very important. The officers are able to do their job, but they're cognizant of the camera. The biggest issue is, Rick, is sometimes when situations escalate pretty quickly, the officers have to remember to activate the camera. So we have sometimes challenges where activation is not happening when it's supposed to.
Right.
And
to say, am I saying the right thing? Did I conform? Am I conforming to what? If I'm not, what's the consequence for me? I'm already thinking about I'm going to have to get assistance when I have to get, and all this swirling about when you got a guy who's doing X, Y, and Z, and you have to make a decision, make it right now. That's an assumption from a layperson. Does that resonate at all?
Yeah, I think it does. Body-worn cameras, it's always this balance. What value does it have versus what's the cost to the officer?
Right.
The department will always see it as completely invaluable because departments are up against a wall with regards to public transparency. We have a police commission that doesn't even want to look at a complaint that's given to the commission unless there's a body-worn camera footage that they can see. If there's no body-worn camera footage, they made it plain. They're just going to rubber stamp it. It must have happened, sustained, send it over to police department for further investigation. We have administrators, like I said, they're writing policy for the body-worn camera in Honolulu. They're ordering officers to use the body-worn camera in Honolulu. They're disciplining officers for not activating properly or whatever they see.
That was all over up and down the playground.
We're talking about the activation issues.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
But at the same time, these same people have never worn it. Yeah. Don't know how to use it. Mm-hmm. Operated in an era of police work where you didn't have it. And I think it's fair to say that probably at some point in their career have done something that would have been caught on camera where people would have gone, aha, well, wait a minute. What did I just see there? Mm-hmm. And that's the real worry culturally in the department more than anything else. In Honolulu, administrators go into body-worn camera footage all the time. There is a quote-unquote audit that is supposed to happen that reviews whether or not the device is used properly on a regular basis. It's a bit complicated to explain, but essentially every month the department makes people in the field go into officers' files, their digital files for their body-worn cameras, and ensure that the camera was operated properly and so on and so forth. But the department has refused to set specific guidelines on how to do this. So you have people who go in and watch hours worth of body-worn footage arbitrarily.
Wow.
And then when they see things that they quote-unquote can't unsee, they start investigations, when in reality the whole idea was, listen, can you just make sure this person is activating their camera in a timely manner and deactivating their camera at the correct time?
So the officer is de facto investigated themselves.
Completely, yeah, without any external or internal complaint whatsoever. Wow. So it turned into an audit to make sure that people are using the device properly. Using the device properly now means that we're going to scrub the entire 20 minutes or hour worth of footage to see exactly what happened here. And if we see one policy violation, if we see one equipment violation, we're going to end up writing the person up because we were told to look at the footage, essentially.
We're told often, either from chief or deputy chiefs, etc. I think even we've discussed it. Video is video, but video doesn't tell the full story.
That's our biggest issue, Rick. We're not going to sit here and say that there's not some merit to the body-worn camera. We're not going to do that. There is some merit. But what we feel is happening is the body-worn camera is being taken at face value, and there's things that the body-worn camera does not catch. And that's some of the challenges we have. And right now the technology, Rick, is moving at a scary pace where these cameras and AI want to read facial expressions of officers and suspects and start making assumptions and suggestions, and AI starting to creep into the body cameras, and we're extremely skeptical of that. The other thing I want to just leave for your listeners, okay? Oh, police officers have an important job. Okay, fair enough. We should see what they're doing. Okay. Well, with that being said then, does the governor have an important job? Do the senators have an important job? Do the councilmen have an important job? Police commissioners? Why doesn't everyone why don't we all wear body cameras?
No, we have to pass laws.
Would you say, Rick, that a police officer's job, would you agree that if you were a state senator that would be important, right? Yeah. Why don't we just all wear body cameras?
We have to pass laws so the big square building has sunshine. And it's violated all the time. There's no way in this world they would ever have a standard that rises to what they expect of others. I got 2 words: conference committee. That is where the real business of the legislature is conducted in the last week of a session. Closed, no audio, no reporting, no video, nothing. It is the smoky, dark room where all of this stuff is decided. But they will pass legislation that says you, as a officer of the Honolulu Police Department, we're going to watch you go to the bathroom, if necessary, to ensure that you're doing, quote unquote, what is it? The right thing.
Here's an interesting comment on that. So get this. Officers are required to turn their camera on and power it up, but it's allegedly in a loop mode. So it's not recording, okay? But that camera is powered up and looping the entire time. When they hit record, that's when it records. But for some of us that are maybe a little bit older and we're not, technology, it's looping. I tell all my guys, if you go to the bathroom and you need to have something private, just turn it off and then turn it back on. Because if in that loop mode, Rick, the power is still going. It's just not recording.
So this is how old I am. When you said looping, I immediately thought of Fruit Loops. That's the natural connection that I have. Mark, final thought, because we're right at the
real
quarter
fast.
hour.
Thanks, Ginger, for calling in. And one thing she did say is, the officers are being recorded for every move they made. It's not. That body cam only shows a square in front of their body. It's not showing what's going behind them, the sides, on top of them, right? If they're on an elevated area, it's not showing what's going on below them. And the police commission, Doug Chin, is big on this body camera crap. And he's really big on disciplining officers. But to me, it's an officer safety issue. If you're going into a hot situation, I don't want these guys worrying about turning the damn camera on. I'd rather them be safe and be alive, right?
Amen.
So,
amen. 7:47 in the morning. It is the Shpoo Hour. It is News Radio 830 KHVH. I have some other topicality I want to get to and do not want to run out of time. I want to thank you, by the way, for the conversation so far. Very illuminating for a lot of us. And thank you. 5 smash and grabs over this past weekend. Dear heavens above. Advice to business owners, those who have storefronts, etc. How can we mitigate this and transmit to potential thieves, don't touch my place? Is there a way that we could help our business owners?
I just say get a Connie Corso.
And that's the Shpoo Hour for today.
I can tell you that wouldn't be a bad.
Let me say something about these smash and grabs.
Yeah.
Right? These people are going to get caught. I know they will. Right?
You're on an island.
Yeah, but the Honolulu Police Department has some of the best investigators in the country. We have really, really good detectives. They're going to get caught. My issue is what's going to happen to them once they get caught, right? What's the prosecutor going to do? What's the judges are going to do, right? That's my issue. And that's why all this stuff is happening, because there's nothing going to happen to these guys.
There we go. Brother Nick.
I would say that if you had asked me this question a year or two ago, or maybe 3, I would tell you have a good surveillance system. But I'm seeing more and more that surveillance systems are being defeated easily by masks and clothes, which we've all come to accept people wearing in public thanks to COVID.
Yeah.
So my suggestion now would be have a good alarm system for your business. Make it as difficult as you possibly can for someone to get in there when the business is closed. And when the business is open, just be hyper vigilant of suspicious activity. And if you've been a business owner long enough, you probably know when someone is in there as a regular patron and someone just doesn't belong.
Yeah. Could I suggest one thing? Sign on the wall, right on the window to the storefront, there is no money. And then take your cash registers, put them away so nobody can even see that there's a register on site. And secondarily, make a deposit after work. Don't leave cash. I don't understand.
I don't get that.
I don't get it.
Yeah.
You know, you make the deposit, you're done. I used to do that. I worked in fast food when I was in high school. And at the end of my shift, it was a night shift, I took the deposit, dropped it off at the bank, and we were done. Yeah. Now they're going to look for people going to the bank to make a deposit, probably. But and then, Brother Nick, noise and light, because these are basically cowards.
Yeah.
In the middle of the night, early morning, and you call attention to them, maybe that would help. But Mark's point is the clarion point. Why is it going on? Mm-hmm. No consequence, risk and reward. Yeah. And there we go. There's another issue, and the department with Chief Joe announcing about gaming rooms and about seizure of properties. Now, the proliferation of gaming rooms, we're being told that about 50% of the known gaming rooms have been closed. And an effort is underway to provide seizure of properties for those who engage in this. We've gone through this with weed and seed years ago in Chinatown with drug sales and things of that nature. What are your thoughts about our situation with gaming rooms? Are we on the right course? to cleanse ourselves of illegal gaming rooms? Mark?
Okay, so I saw this press conference. I had a little bit of an issue with it. So I guess they were saying there's like 120 game rooms. The Honolulu Police Department closed down 60 of them, right? Okay, so my thing is, what is the prosecutors and what are the judges doing about those 60 game rooms that were closed? Why are they allowed to reopen all the time, right? The police department's doing their job. They're finding these places, and it's thorough investigations. It doesn't happen overnight. I mean, you're talking weeks, months, even years of investigations to close these places down and get the proper evidence. So what is happening? What is the government doing, with the prosecutors and the judges doing about these game rooms? Absolutely nothing, right? So what does the government do? They put it on the landlord to take care of their problems, right? So they tell the land, and admittedly in the press conference, they admitted that landlords had no idea that this was going on their property. But you're going to go after them. You're going to send them a letter. Okay, now you take care of it. We know there's illegal activity. So I guess the feds were there, right? The feds were saying, we know there's illegal activity on your property. Well, then why the hell don't you do something about it? Right? That is their job. Do something about that illegal game room. And instead, they're putting on a landlord who had no idea what was going on to kick those people out and possibly get retaliation. That is my issue with this, right? But the police department is doing their job. We close them up all the time. So what are the other branches of government doing, or judiciary doing? Absolutely nothing.
Steve?
I think forfeiture, if used appropriately and correctly, would be a good tool. If used appropriately. I think there should be some accountability on building owners, but like Mark said, okay, so you sign a lease with somebody, you think they're on the up and up, and now it turns out they're running a game room in your property. So what? You're just going to show up there and say, hey, you bad men, I'm going to take you to court and I'm going to evict you because you're violating the lease. Are we putting the building owner or property owner in harm's way by basically saying, hey, you need to take care of this? Not only that, to evict somebody, that's not exactly a process. So I think there's a lot of moving parts here. Game rooms come, they go, they come, they go. It seems like we're just, it's like a cat and mouse game with these things, Rick. And to be very candid with you, do I ever think they're going to go away? No, I don't. I think the Honolulu Police Department is going to do their best to keep shutting them down, but are they going to keep popping up? I think the trend over the last, several decades has been they do, and I don't say that sarcastically. I think they're dangerous. How many times have you heard that somebody outside of a game room got shot, stabbed? People owes money. So there's, again, nothing good comes from them. But building owners that look the other way, okay, let's hold them accountable. But what if you have a building owner that, what does the building owner go to DPP? Who does the building owner go to if they identify that they have nefarious characters that they've signed a lease with? How do they get them out? And how do they get them out safely, expeditiously? We just got to make sure we support them to do that. It's not just, hey, you have bad people, you have bad tenants, get them out. Well, there's a legal process for that. That's a civil process. Now, if there's crimes coming in, like Mark was saying, I don't know, are we getting the AGs involved? Who's coming around to kind of expedite maybe the removal of these characters from the property?
I say legalize gambling. Legalize it. And then, if you are in fact going to have a gaming house, be registered, pay taxes. That'll kill gaming houses.
Yeah.
Immediately. Brother Nick?
Yeah, I know we don't have a whole lot of time left, but I think that's really the crux of the problem right then and there. Gaming, legalized versus illegalized gambling, it's such a murky area in this state. And you have proponents that want to legalize it, and then you have people that don't want it to be legalized at all. And it makes it very difficult for the police department to enforce something that is sort of encouraged amongst a subculture of individuals in this state.
We have 2.5 million people that travel to Vegas.
Right. Yeah.
Every year.
Right. But at the same time, when the police department, and great job to the people on the ground who are organizing all of this, because it really is the men and women at the lowest levels that are getting the job done fighting these game rooms. And by that, I mean like the crime reduction units and whatnot, and the guys in Narco Vice. But in order to really combat this, you have to have a cultural change.
Well, we sure could use that in a lot of different areas.
And why don't these politicians pass some laws? You know?
Well, why don't they enforce the ones we have?
Yeah, exactly. So,
gentlemen, I want to thank you so very much. Brother Mark, good to have you back in town.
yeah, good to be here.
Yeah, we'll see you very soon. Brother Nick, muchos gracias.
Thanks for having us.
Thought I'd go ahead and use your native tongue there for a moment.
Thank you.
And Brother Steve, mahalo plenty.
Appreciate you, brother. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The Shpoo Hour, Mondays at 7 a.m. Stand by. There's more of the Rookamata program coming up. It's 8 o'clock.